So this isn't the video I was planning on, making this week. I want to try to get back to weekly uploads here on the channel. Because honestly, I did forget about MLB trade deadline because, all the GMs and the owners and everyone are saying, yeah, we're not doing anything because there's probably not baseball next year, so there's no point. So yeah, I kind of forgot about deadline. Deadline's been pretty quiet compared to previous years. Like, usually MLB trade deadline is the most exciting trade deadline in all of sports, and it's one of the most exciting weeks in sports. This year it has been really quiet, except for one trade that makes me a little upset. That being said, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Mostly cover Chicago sports here, but right now we're talking about the Tel Aviv Dodgers trading for Tarik Skubal. Now, what did the Dodgers have to give up for Tarik Skubal? A 28-year-old pitcher that is not... He has over a 4 ERA in the minors and Zaire Hope, which means that realistically the Cubs could have offered up Michael Busch for Tarik Skubal. I don't think that's a big, downgrade, or I think it might be an upgrade even. Tarik Skubal is kind of good. No hate to Zaire Hope, but he is a good prospect. He's super young, and I'm sure that he will become a better player, but he's doing well in AA. He'll probably be in AAA next year. We'll just have to see his development path, but the package was not impressive at all whatsoever. So you might be saying, well, any team could have made that deal, and you're 100% right, any team could have. Which is why part of me doesn't think that this is, something that's completely, good. I mean, it's completely bad, but I feel like there is more to the story here, and this might be something that documentary is made out of. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I don't really know anything. It's just this feeling I have, because you're telling me that, a team like the Cubs couldn't have drawn up some deal using Seiya and maybe a couple other guys, maybe some prospects, even cash. Because, the Cubs are one of those teams that actually does have cash. Were the Yankees not knocking on the door? The Mets have no business even asking. The Brewers have the best farm in MLB. You're telling me they couldn't make a deal here? It just doesn't make sense to me that you don't have teams like the Cubs in the conversation. You don't have the Yankees, who should be in the conversation for every pitching not prospect, but every pitcher ever, especially a Cy Young winner. You don't have the Brewers in there, who don't necessarily super need that boost. They would much rather have a home run hitter, I would say right now. Or even the White Sox. The White Sox got a washed Luis Castillo. They would have loved Okay, that was never going to happen. They're both AL Central, but it just... Why was it the Dodgers? Sure, it was two reportedly top 100 prospects, but there's other teams that have more top 100 prospects, like the Brewers, who have probably the best farm in baseball. And don't get me... Pirates also probably could have made a deal. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want to see Skubal on the Brewers or the Pirates, quite frankly. But you know what? That would hurt less than him being on the Dodgers, which is insane, because the Dodgers aren't in my division. Now back to the conspiracy part of this, okay? Does anyone think that there is any possibility that this could have been a like plot from MLB owners to force a lockout and a salary cap? Which, of course, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers. They will be grandfathered into not having a salary cap to win 10 rings. Um, I mean that was just spiteful and not really necessary to the conspiracy of this. But like, do we think that there's any chance that there's some boardroom collusion here, some front office tampering to get the Dodgers a third ring with an asterisk? If we want to talk, okay, the Astros did cheat in that first World Series during the short-lived Astros dynasty. They did cheat. But, looking back, will the 2024, 2025, and 2020, if they win it in 2026, the 2026 Dodgers World Series, will those three have an asterisk if a salary cap is implemented? If they're grandfathered in to being above salary cap, will those have an asterisk on them? Like, we just have to talk about it because it's actually insane what they're doing. And part of me feels like I'm a big believer that any team can do this. They're owned by billionaires, after all. If they had any sense of pride, they'd be spending like the Padres have for the past decade. And part of the reason the Dodgers are able to do this and the Padres and the Yankees and the Mets haven't for the past decade. Well, I mean, Dodgers haven't been doing it for a decade. It's just been, more recently it's gotten a lot more in your face, is because quite frankly, genuinely, they do have a better front office. And it's starting to get to the point where it's like, is it a bit? Like, is this... Are they playing Evil Empire? Are they playing the big bad to try to force the salary cap so the ownership group can make more money? Because, like, we could talk about how greedy a lot of the smaller market team owners are. Most of them billionaires, just by the way, that don't want to spend money on their team. We could talk about that all day. But like, look into the Dodgers ownership and everything they're in, everything they do. It's actually insane. They are just genuinely morally bankrupt people. Like that organization is it genuinely might be. I'm not really into this kind of stuff, but it might be a genuine manifestation of pure evil. Like, on a spiritual level, biblical level even. So, why... at this point, the Tigers don't care where he goes as long as it's not... I assume probably they don't want him to go in the AL Central. So, the White Sox were probably out from the start. So, why didn't the Brewers walk in? Honestly, why didn't Pittsburgh? Why didn't... Who's even in the lead in the East? The Braves? The Phillies? Why didn't those teams enter in? Okay? The Yankees. Like, there's so many other teams that had the ability to go get Skubal, and you have to wonder why that package is the one that won. Like, this is honestly more in our face as this was a planted trade than the Luka Doncic trade. If you remember the night Luka got traded, it was fishy from the start because, like, yeah, trades happen where you can't do it in like the show or 2K or whatever game you're talking about. Most of them won't let these trades happen because they're so lopsided. But you got to think about, why is it so lopsided? Like the Luka Doncic trade. Okay, why is the star player one of the top 10 players in NBA at the moment from a team that isn't necessarily a small market, but they're definitely not one of the big three teams in NBA? Okay, why is he being traded to the biggest team in NBA in a time where everyone was getting kind of sick of Adam Silver messing with, maybe not messing with, but NBA has declined in quality, I would say, over the past few years. And it just was a bad trade package, and it felt fishy from the start. And I'm not going to even touch Myles Garrett to the Rams because I just don't feel like that's necessary because the Browns were involved, so it was going to be a bad trade no matter what happened. But Skubal to the Dodgers. Okay, I think MLB has realized that, the time of the Yankees being the number one most watched team in the league, like the biggest brand in MLB, the MLB, gross. Um, anyways, the time of like my childhood of the evil empire of the Yankees being the number one team in MLB, like in branding and wins, all that stuff, it's coming to an end. And that was decided in 2024 when the Dodgers beat them in a Cowboys fan's worst nightmare for a World Series. So the Dodgers are now top dog because now everyone in the US that, doesn't have a team, or they want to act like they're interested in baseball or a big baseball fan, but they have no idea about baseball, have never watched the game, they're all Dodgers fans now. Okay? And then you also, by virtue of Shohei probably being the greatest player alive, you're pulling in a very large Japanese audience to the Dodgers. And therefore, the Dodgers aren't just the biggest team in America. They're the biggest team in the world because we're not even going to touch other markets around the world. But there are other international markets where the Dodgers are their team. Dodgers are chasing rings like Jambone from that one episode of Futurama. And it also, I don't know if I said, I'm this is kind of a ranty video and I'm like taking little pauses here and there. I just gotta say, Tarik Skubal, you are a spineless fucking worm. You fart huffing fucking weasel dick little bitch boy. Cause like, you've been talking for weeks about how you want to be a Dodger next year. Shut the fuck up, dude. Oh yeah, I just want an easy ring. Honestly, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Tarik Skubal's more of a spineless worm. He's more of a fucking snake. More of a ring-chasing, shameless loser than KD. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, Kevin Durant, it's pretty appalling. But Tarik Skubal he's not even trying to hide it. He's just openly saying, yeah, I want to go to the Dodgers, get an easy ring. That's fucking ridiculous, dude. I'm pissed. And I know I've been saying any team could have made the trade because genuinely, with that package, more than half the teams in MLB could have made that trade. Now, the problem is all of their free agent signings. Can any team do that? Part of me says, well, yeah. And then I remember the part where the Dodgers do actually have a competitive advantage over other MLB teams in their TV rights deal. MLB did not give them that advantage. It was the courts back in 2012 when the Dodgers went bankrupt and the Guggenheim Group bought them and made their own TV rights deal that didn't line up at all with the TV rights deal that was projected in the courts and then determined by the courts and all that stuff. So basically, if I'm remembering this right, the Dodgers are paying their annual TV rights, revenue sharing. They're paying that to MLB off of like a 1.5 or $2 billion deal. That was 25 years or something like that. when in reality the payout they got from Time Warner was enough to create Spectrum. You know Spectrum, and you don't just know it from Dodgers. But yeah, it created Spectrum, and now it's Time Warner's gotten in a lot of financial trouble since then, but they're still on the hook to the Dodgers, okay? Because the deal was like $8 billion. Which, by the way, I don't want a salary cap. I'm pretty firm on that. But at this point, we might need one because of how much manipulation the Dodgers have done. Because MLB can't step in and say, well, you got to pay based off of your $8 billion TV deal. Because the court said, no, they're paying what was agreed upon with the old owners. Which is a completely different deal that also, like, kind of existed, but not really. I think it's really weird and messy, and I'm not an expert on financial law per se. I'm not at all. I don't know why I said per se. So, yeah, basically, the Dodgers, the final year of their deal, like 2038 or whatever, they're being paid out $500 million. Revenue sharing is not going to take that much away from them, but if there's a salary cap, they're pocketing pretty much all the bonus. But, you know, for the past couple of years, they've basically been skimming off the top an extra $50 million. Let me do something real quick. 2026, there are 6 teams that pay under $100 million for their payroll. Just by the way. And, like, we could talk about how the Mets have a crazy payroll and how they overpay players. And I think that is a great reason why I don't believe in a salary cap, because the Mets fucking suck. The Mets are really bad, and they have this crazy payroll. The Blue Jays, they're mid as hell. Crazy payroll. Like, just because you pay a lot of money doesn't mean you're going to be good. The Dodgers are a little different. But anyways, where that $50 million comes in is the lowest payroll, Cleveland, is $73 million. Are we kidding? Are we actually joking here? That's 50% more than just the money that the Dodgers are skimming off the top of their TV rights deal. A big reason the Dodgers are able to do this is because deferrals. We could talk about that another day. But let's just talk about, you know, that 50 million number. 50 million is more than the average annual value of Shohei's contract. It's a little less than Kyle Tucker's, but it's a pretty on par with Juan Soto's average annual value. You know who all is under it? Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Bo Bichette, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Judge, Alex Bregman, who is massively overpaid by the Cubs, DeGrom, Blake Snell, Mike Trout, Garrett Cole, Vladdy Jr. The list does genuinely go on for, you know, every player in MLB except Kyle Tucker and Juan Soto. Of course, I'm not talking the, you know, combined average annual values of all these players combined or anything. I'm just saying it's a bonus superstar that they get to skim off the top of their TV rights deal. It covers Shohei's average annual value, which is insane. There are only 2 players in all of MLB whose average annual salaries could not be covered by the money the Dodgers skim off the top of their TV rights deal that they don't have to pay to MLB. And I could have the numbers wrong. They might be taking more, but from what I heard 2 years ago, it was about 50 million. But also the values of their payouts do increase over time, and I don't know if they're paying... I think they pay more, it's just not a higher percentage of it, I don't know. I'm not a financial expert. If you know more about that deal, let me know. But from my seat where I'm sitting, it looks like the Dodgers get a free superstar. The only ones that money can't pay for are Kyle Tucker, and if they are getting more per year than they were 2 years ago, it's paying for Juan Soto. So it's just Kyle Tucker potentially that they don't have the average salary covered just by this. I have never been so close to on the side of MLB owners about salary cap until this moment. But at the same time, there's that feeling in my head that this is the point. It is to get us MLB fans to want to side with the idea of a salary cap. So my suggestion, straight up, if your team is playing the Dodgers, don't watch. Just don't. Any opportunity the Dodgers have to be on your screen, turn it off. Just, media blackout the Dodgers. That's because that is the problem at this point. The problem isn't everyone. Okay. It isn't just the Dodgers. Also, the cheaper owners are an issue. I think the Pittsburgh Pirates owner, Bob Nutting, is a piece of shit. I don't like him. I think the Pirates should have been much more competitive much sooner than they are now. Yeah, I don't like Bob Nutting. I don't like... The Marlins are under new ownership. Might not be as bad. Same with the Rays. So give them some time. The Guardians... the Reds genuinely can't. They don't have that much money. Like, that isn't on them. But, like, there's just a lot of garbage. And part of it is, with the TV rights deals, a lot of these smaller market teams genuinely, from MLB, are not allowed to have their own TV rights deal that is handled by MLB. And my team's guilty of this. My team's not going to give up their TV rights. Marquee's doing okay. Like, it's just become a problem that smaller markets can't keep up with, and MLB needs to figure out a solution. And, they gotta wait it out. I think a lockout is the worst possibility for MLB as a whole, but also letting the Dodgers do what they're doing is bad for baseball. So, really, no one's winning here. Sure, the Dodgers can get a ring, but are they harming the sport and their prospective future to make money off of baseball? I don't know. Tell me what you think down below. I fucking hate the Dodgers. Tarik Skubal's a spineless worm, and I'm not saying I would be cheering if a Dodgers player got injured, but I'm not saying I'd feel bad for them. Anyways, that's about it. See ya.